Thanks. Keep up the
You're
good work.
welcome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right, Mr. Locke, Harwich Conservation Trust.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to share an update on the Harwich Natural Heritage Trail Project. Michael Locke, Executive Director of the nonprofit Harwich Conservation Trust. And thank you, members of the Community Preservation Committee, for supporting this article last year, and the town meeting voters in turn supporting it as well. So as you can see from the written report, we've had a few design team meetings. The design team comprised of the representatives from Harwich Conservation Trust, the Massachusetts Division of Ecological Restoration, Interfluve, which is an engineering firm specializing in river and wetland ecological restoration and public access projects, and then Stimson Associates Landscape Architects. We've reviewed the route for the proposed half-mile wheelchair accessible trail, slope from the preferred parking option 1, which is from the existing parking area at 203 Bank Street. We acknowledge that the select board is still considering disposition of that property with a pending request for proposals to the community. So we do have a parking option 2, a little further south off Bank Street. However, the existing parking is our preferred alternative. So we'll see what the future brings there. We're also looking at stream crossing or pedestrian footbridge crossings that would include enough width and load-bearing capacity for ride-on mower, so we can maintain the trails at their roughly 8-foot width, and also for emergency response abilities through I think that what they use or intending to acquire is a Polaris model. It's like an ATV that can transport people. And we've talked to the fire department about that so that we can understand what the specifications are to accommodate that type of emergency response vehicle, especially at the stream crossings. You'll see on page 2 the module construction approach that we are leaning towards based on a cost effectiveness aspect after looking at a couple different options. And we're looking at helical piles for foundations, including a width of about 10 feet where the Coldbrook it will be crossing beneath will be flowing beneath the pedestrian wheelchair accessible crossing. I talked about parking. And then moving on to next steps, we're continuing our monthly design meetings. We're in the 25% final design phase for the overall project, even though we're in the middle of the design phase for the public access portion, of which this phase 1 Natural Heritage Trail, ADA, all persons access trail is a part. We're hopefully, depending on the permitting process, which has started with an application to the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Act, and then a recent filed proposal for project change, recently filed with the state. We'll move into local permitting with the Town Conservation Commission and the state's Department of Environmental Protection. Assuming permitting goes according to schedule, we should finish by fall, and then hopefully start construction either then or winter 2023. And I attached notes, slides, predominantly provided by Stimson Landscape Architects from the March 16th design team meeting. I attached those to this 2-page summary that I was referring to. So I'm glad to answer any questions.
Mike, what's the life expectancy of the panels?
The decking panels. We're anticipating a pressure-treated construction, so as opposed to a composite decking, and so it should be probably in the 40 to 50 year lifespan. sturdy.
Elizabeth?
I'm sorry, I had a crazy day, so I didn't get to
That's
look this
okay.
up ahead of
Yeah.
time, and I meant to. We gave you money this year. Was that for phase 2?
What's pending before May 2nd, 2022 town meeting voters, which your committee endorsed to move it forward to the town meeting warrant, is an ask for $75,000 that would support phase 2 of this Natural Heritage Trail project. That's to focus on a roughly 100-foot-long boardwalk connector in the easterly part of the Robert F. Smith Colebrook Preserve, right?
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
I just couldn't remember.
Carol?
Hey, Michael.
Hi.
Just a two-part question, I guess. What is the expected construction duration? And just because permitting is always, can get longer than we expect, are there time-of-year restrictions that might, like if you need a certain construction duration and permitting extends, would you have to move construction to the following year, the following winter?
My understanding after talking with Nick Nelson of Interfluve is that time of year restrictions for, let's say, fish passage, since we know this is an American eel run, we've been partnering with the State's Division of Marine Fisheries to track that. It wouldn't necessarily apply because we're going to be using a bypass channel for the existing channel of the Colebrook, a bypass channel in order to divert water so that the new channel can be constructed. And then the construction of the stream crossings, including those that will be part of the ADA loop, will be part of that process. So it's sort of backing into the start of your question, which was time frame for total construction. So the estimate from start to finish construction is about 6 months. So assuming that what I just shared about time of year restriction not bumping into another calendar year, we would be looking at a 6-month construction span.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Joe?
Just a quick, at the beginning, you talked about the parking.
Yes.
And is that still what we've been talking about forever? It's gonna be right back behind where the old fire station is, right?
Well, it's just to it's a great question, Joe, and to expand on that, it's been where the parking has always been, right? Since
Yeah.
the trust acquired the property about 21 years ago, and it's been by the good graces of the select board to allow that parking to continue. And we know that also by virtue of May 2017 town meeting voters gave the select board the authorization to dispose of the property because the harbor master workshop operations were moved down to the Saquatucket Harbor Marina as part of the overall harbor infrastructure improvements. And so it's my understanding the select board is working on their request for proposals, which they'll circulate to the public, to the community, and see what kind of responses there are for interest in the property. It's roughly 2 acres there, a portion of which the existing parking occupies. And Harwich Conservation Trust plans to respond to that request for proposals, and fingers crossed, we hope to submit a competitive proposal. We're also in a conversation with a nonprofit, Harwich Fire Association, who has an interest in the original fire station structure. So we're trying to be creative and also look to the future and seeing how popular that destination has become using the existing parking. So we'd like to maintain that. Yeah, that would be our intent.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the committee? No? Thanks, Mike.
Thank you all very much.
Okay. Harwich Housing Authority, Tracy? Welcome.
I gave you guys all my things and I didn't keep one for myself, but I think I know all the, it's very short. No, I'm good, thank you. So as you can see there, it's, things have been kind of quiet with the rental assistance. We're hoping that the applications might pick up. When I started doing this, I had a waiting list. I mean, I had dozens of people waiting for rental assistance, but In talking to other rental assistance, other towns that have rental assistance, everybody's going through the same thing, and that is that right now, there's just nothing to rent. And so I mean, sad as that sounds, there's just not that, it's so difficult. And also, there was a lot of COVID money out there for a long time, and so people were getting money to help with their rent, and that's still there. It's still, I know the Housing Assistance Corp in Hyannis is still helping people with their rent on a one-by-one, needing a couple of months' rent to get caught up, where this is designed to be an ongoing thing, for as long as 3 years. So people just haven't needed it yet. We do get, we picked up, I think we got 6 or 7 families currently using it, and obviously they're very grateful. But we've been, we did flyers and backpacks at schools, and we've been doing, trying to do some, outreach, but for the most part, right now, it's just quiet. So it's, as I say, there's 7 families using it, but there's still money there, and, anybody that knows anybody that might need help, we encourage them, obviously, to reach out to us, so.
Mary?
Do you know how many additional families you have money for at the moment?
Roughly, it depends, because depending on their income, it can be anywhere from $100 to $350. So, but on average, it's usually between 12 and 14 families total. So we've probably got enough right now to help another 7 or 8 families. Yep. Or not just families, I shouldn't say that, individuals as well. Yep.
Thanks, Tracy.
Sure.
Joe?
So, you have additional monies for 12 to 14 families.
Our total amount would cover, if our families all needed $350, it's a maximum of $350.
That was my question. So that's the max, the 350
And it's a
is what
maximum
you
of
can give.
and a maximum of 3 years. We redetermine them every year to see, in a perfect world, people do a little better every year and need a little less. But if they were to go the full 3 years, the full 350, it's 12 families.
That's a state guideline?
Which is
The 350?
Nope, that's the town, been the program, the structure of the program from day one. We have one in Chatham that's identical to it.
I have to share with you, Tracy, I have 2 friends of mine that both have properties tied to their homes.
Mm-hmm.
One's a single family, a regular house, 700 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
Another one's tied to the house, and the guy's got 600 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
Not less than 85 people applied
Oh,
for
wow.
applications, and I'm looking at your number of you got 6 families here, and you can do another 12. And I always ask this question each year, is like, if we gave you more money, could we give you more money? If we gave you more money, would you use it?
And normally I would say yes. This year has been an anomaly. It's very unusual that the families just aren't coming forward and applying. We're just not getting the applications.
And to that point, I had questions on advertising, flyers, outreach. What is it that you actually do, and is there anything more that we can?
Yeah, actually, we were just talking about this, because I need to, we've done some minimal, I would call it minimal outreach thus far. To be very honest with you, assuming that once the COVID money ran out, the applications would start flowing again. So, but we were just talking about that this week, and we're gonna put another ad in the Chronicle, and just trying to, basically get the word out there that the money's there. A lot of people know, some people will call, and they aren't, there are some guidelines that are a little sticky for small towns, in the sense that there really needs to be, at least at the beginning, a 1-year lease. That it needs to be, there are contracts that the landlord has to sign with us. We do a W-9 at the end, a 1099 at the end of the year, and some people, they don't necessarily declare their rental income, so they're not willing to be the landlords aren't willing to be a part of it. That's another big issue that we've had over the years, and not to be disparaging to anybody, but people are just, they get cash and they don't have a lease, and they just rent what they've got. And also, is it a legal apartment or a legal house, as opposed to a basement or that kind of thing. So I think, that over the years, that has been a bit of a sticking point. It's a little rigid. It's town money, we're not gonna just give it away. We, you know, we need to know that people are on the up and up, especially, you know, that the landlords are on the up and up. And so some landlords, they're hesitant, you know, they don't wanna necessarily be a part of it. And, but for the most part, it just seems that, the need isn't anywhere near as dire as it has been I mean, in the 9 years that I've been doing it. As I say, I've always had a waiting list. So we haven't been really pushing the advertising because we just assumed that things would, you know, once the COVID money ran out, people would, and now we actually have had a little flurry recently in the last few weeks. My assistant has had, a number of people, calling and coming in that all sort of know each other, and they're all living, you know, they all have apartments, or they're big, a lot of them are big families, and so we have had a bit of a flurry of questions and applications, but nowhere near what we've had in the past, so.
And my last question is, you've been doing this for a long time,
Yeah.
for quite a while. The $350 to $400 that you identify, I've been in the mortgage world for 20 years, so I did reverse mortgages for 15 years
Sure,
now. And the
yeah.
average senior, believe it or not, that I work with, when it's appropriate, they only need $500 a month,
Yeah,
$600 a month,
sure,
and it makes them healthy.
Yeah.
And they can go out to lunch with their friends once a week
Right.
or whatever. But in your case, the $300 to $400, is that an average? Do you see that?
most of them cap out, they actually use the full 350. Most of them do use the full 350. And the problem that we have, we run into with the seniors that are looking for help too, is that it's only 3 years. So then they, you know, and everybody, it's so funny because every time people apply and I say, now you guys, you know that it's 3 years, and they, oh, I'll be fine in 3 years. Everything will be better in 3 years. And then inevitably the 3 years are up and they're panicking because they become very dependent on that.
Yes,
So,
they do.
yeah, I mean, the idea, I think, behind the program originally, and same with Chatham, is that it was something to sort of a bridge, you know, to kind of get people to the point where hopefully in a perfect world, if people are working in the household, they're making a little more money and maybe their rent doesn't jump as much as their incomes, hopefully, but very often that's sadly not the case, so.
Rents are just so high.
Oh, they're beyond belief, yeah. I mean, it really is. I'm the director of the Harwich and Chatham Housing Authorities, so we don't want to go down that road. That's not a pretty place for me to go, yeah, so. But anyway, we're assuming, we're just assuming, and as I say, I've spoken to Kim, who's, at Hatch, who does, they've got rental assistance, Eastham's got rental assistance, I think Wellfleet's got rental assistance, and they're all very similar structures, and they're all having the exact same. Every one of them has said, oh yeah, we have the money to give. We just don't have, it's just people, they call and they say, can I have it if I can find a place? And I go, absolutely, and
It's the inventory.
they just can't find a place, yeah. I mean, it's just absolutely beyond belief, yeah.
Any other questions from the committee?
Can I just make one
Yes.
comment? I don't know if it's appropriate or not. We currently have 3 openings on the Harwich Housing Authority Board, if anybody knows anybody. Just wanted to say that, put in that plug. I told the select board, but I just wanted to be sure everybody knows.
All
so.
right, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
We're having a good time.
Yeah, we're having fun.
Thank you, Tracy.
All right. Mr. Powers. Welcome.
Good evening, folks. I wanted to be an optimist and stand, but I think I should sit for this.
Okay.
Good evening, folks. Thanks for having me. So I'm doing double duty, meaning normally I would ask the Assistant Town Administrator, Megan Eldridge, who's been my point person on the playground. So she wrote the report, but I offered, since I'll be here, to take any questions on that update. And of course, I'm also here on behalf of the Affordable Housing Trust. I really don't have anything to add beyond what's in the reports. I'd be more than happy to respond to any questions or comments you folks have at this point, other than to say, with the weather, we're thrilled to announce that construction has already broken ground and begun. Joy Jordan from the school district has reached out, and I think we're now at the stage where we might be able to do a ceremonial ribbon cutting and all that in the coming weeks, so we'll certainly keep community preservation abreast of that as well, because we're progressing well, and we can start having some fun in that location, including using giant scissors.
So,
Anybody on the committee have anything that they'd like to ask?
so when,
Elizabeth?
I mean, yes, thanks, sorry. I forget. Thank you. When do you think kids are gonna be actually running around screaming on these things? June?
That's
June.
absolutely the intent, is June, and what we're, with fingers crossed, what we're hoping is that the young scholars that are there presently, including the fourth grade class, would have an opportunity to do something before the school year ends, and of course, it'll be available all summer. But the intent was to try to get it open during a school year and not necessarily the next school year. So the plan is, we're shooting for June. The bad news is, we had enough snowstorms that they're going for the month of June, so we will have more days available than in past years.
Thanks.
Well, it's progress, so that's great.
Absolutely, yeah.
Progress.
Absolutely.
Anyone else on the committee? Mary?
Not on the playground.
Okay. All right, let's move
Main event.
on to the Affordable Housing Trust.
So I noticed on the agenda that you're just looking for an update, I believe, on the housing coordinator position. So you'll see in my memorandum, I focused on all the items, but really, it's all commingled, for lack of a better word.
Right.
And so if you see on my report, unfortunately, the town through HR, the HR department did an advertisement late summer, early fall. We had, I want to say, 3, maybe 4 applicants. We did interviews, and there, as of this date, no suitable matches, or the ones we were interested in ended up withdrawing their candidacy. I would say that, so that's the bad news, and that's why we haven't yet availed ourselves of the funds there. As you can see in Carol's report, it's still an encumbrance. We haven't taken the funds yet, and I'd say at this point, it's highly doubtful that we'll use the funds, so we would be sending a memorandum to you folks for you to take it back. And as you know, that article is related to this year's effort to potentially have a housing coordinator. But as I've reported to you folks before, I'm thrilled to announce that the Board of Selectmen supported and is in the operating budget for the housing advocate position. And so really what we're looking for is, we'll know under Article 4 if that's been a successful effort. I've had conversations with the other chair, the gentleman chair of the board, and I think we're going to discuss at the motions meeting if we would have an indefinite postponement motion on the article, because the intent really is to commit to the position full-time and not have to avail ourselves of the CPC funds for that going forward.
Questions, Carol?
Joe, so the position that would be the town-funded full-time position would be a housing advocate position?
Correct. Yep.
And that would be full-time or part-time?
No, it's full-time benefited. It would be under the personnel bylaws, would be in our management compensation and classification plan. If memory serves correct, we have 10 grades within that plan. The housing advocate position comes in as an M3.
And that position would liaise with the housing committee, the various housing committees in town?
Correct, without a doubt. They'd be a staff resource for the Affordable Housing Trust, Housing Committee. I know I'm forgetting one, but also would tie into Tracy and Elizabeth's group there, but the primary would be Affordable Housing Trust and the Housing Committee.
Excellent, thank you.
Do you think that there's gonna be more interest in the full-time
I absolutely
benefits
do,
position?
and as I talked to the trust about it, and, you know, in the spirit of full disclosure, we had to indicate that the housing coordinator role, because we're working off of a grant, is not a full-time position, is not benefited, and I think that would impact. There's a marketing strategy, if you will, where, you know, when I talked to both the Board of Selectmen and the Affordable Housing Trust, I wanted to emphasize that we're looking for an advocate. And to me, the difference between coordinating and advocating is vast. You know, we're looking for a subject matter expert that is steeped in housing, understands the unique needs of Cape Cod. So I think that's going to appeal to a broader audience, and the salary doesn't hurt, and having it benefited in full-time as well. So I do think we'll get more response to that.
If Article 4, you said?
Correct, under the
If
operating
that
budget.
passes at town meeting, when is the soonest that you can start advertising for the position?
So we would start advertising immediately. The job descriptions are already in place, and it would just, with an understanding that the start date would be July 1.
Great.
Yep.
Great. Anybody else have any questions? Mary?
I'm good for now.
You're good for now? Anyone else?
I
No,
just,
she told me what I
I
did.
said, Joe, you're not asking for any money for this fiscal year, right?
So there is an application in for $50,000 for housing
But
coordinator.
not the usually 500, 250, that, you're not asking for that?
No,
Yeah.
we,
500,000.
We already did that. We already did that, Joe.
We approved
I didn't get it anywhere. No, it's not there. That's what I was asking. I didn't see it. I wanted to make sure you weren't gonna ask for any money for this.
No, we already
No,
did.
We already
We already
vo- we-
voted it.
Okay, yeah.
We voted 500,000 for them.
I know, I missed that meeting.
Okay, well, the minutes.
But
I thought where you were coming from is there was no request in the last cycle.
No.
Okay, all right,
so,
I'll yield.
Elizabeth?
thank you. So that $50,000 in '21, you say we're gonna get back to? I thought that went to paying, what's her name, at CDP?
So the vendor relationship was a contract under 30B that expired June 30th of last year. So the trust had the conversation about going in a different direction. The trust wanted to go more with a position, as I understood was the original intent. So we don't have the vendor under contract, and we didn't find any person to fill the role. So the 50,000 for fiscal year '21, I would expect would be a memo from me at directing a rescission, or I think that's the process you go through.
Great, okay,
Mary?
thanks.
So we haven't even given you the money yet anyway, correct? It's still in the CPC account, according
been
to your memo.
encumbered.
Correct, it's
Yeah.
been appropriated, it hasn't been encumbered.
Anyone else? No? Easy peasy.
Absolutely. Can I take one moment just to say thank you? And that's not as any of the roles, well, really administrator, but, you know, I was just asked earlier how I'm doing, and I said I'm doing well because we're 25 days till town meeting. And you folks are partners in that. I know what my team went through, so I know you folks do the additional effort. I know from our warrant, we have some great projects that you folks have supported and are pushing forward. So on behalf of myself, the administration team, and I'm going to take the liberty to say, I'm now saying on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, thank you for you folks for what you do. And we'll reconvene in 25 days. I was told it's 2 nights of town meeting. I would urge everybody to strive for 1.
Yeah, all right.
But thank you for what you folks do.
At least it's
Appreciate
not
it.
Very welcome.
We had a 3 not too long ago, didn't we?
Yeah, we did
on
a
my
few years
watch.
ago.
Just pre-COVID, right, I think?
All
Thank
right.
you, folks.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We did, we went 3 nights.
that's right, oh, God.
All right. Harwich Bikeways Committee, please.
Good evening, all. Good to see
Good
you again.
evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Paul Gazai again from Bikeways Committee. I'm reporting tonight on a couple of items that were approved at town meeting, Article 29. Since I sent you the email, there's been no new updates. Item 1 was for a border marker on the Old Colony Rail Trail. It's due in tomorrow, who knows, hopefully next week, and it'll be installed as soon as possible. Looks like, best estimates is that our portion of that is only gonna be about $660, so there's a good chance, I'm gonna say a good chance that we might be giving you back $340. But I won't know that
Won't know that.
until we see the invoice.
We'll wait on that, okay.
And item number 2 was the Depot Road, on Depot Road South, I call it, and was approved for $15,000, and right now the quotes are out, due in again, the end of the week. Link said that he would process it as quick as possible, decisions would be made, and we'd go out for procurement. I'm hoping that they're in by the time, the summer rush comes in.
Great.
Other than that, that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions from the committee? Mary?
I guess I have one question. Are you anticipating more in the next cycle for next year?
We were fortunate to get a grant for this year, too. We
Fantastic.
rescinded one
Right,
Yes.
for Headwaters
Right.
because we got a grant through Cape Cod Commission. So
Fantastic.
that was good. So we're gonna actually have, hopefully, 2 put in this year.
Great.
And the others, we're gonna have to review with the town engineer. I mean, we've had some discussions with Link, and 124 especially, and Lothrop, and there's a few others that really need some engineering look at before we do anything, so, to be determined. At this point, we'd like to
Okay.
get them all in. I think we got 4 more to go, or 3 more streets to go.
Great.
Anyone el-
Congratulations on the grant.
yeah. Anyone else? No, thank you, Paul.
Thanks,
As
Kat. Thank
usual.
you all. Take care.
All right, Mr. Spitz. Hello.
Do you want the hard copies passed out?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
That one.
I've got one too.
I'll take all your extras.
Okay, I'll be
Thanks,
right back
David.
to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll know a lot more in a few weeks. If you've seen the write-up, we're worried. This is not a good time to be going out for bids on a big project. However, we do have a lot of more information. The engineering and the architectural work has been done. Essentially, it's the same project that the structural engineer outlined a year ago. And I can describe any of that if any of you want. But we are still, as approved at last town meeting, planning to fix the foundation, dig out the basement, except for the last approximately 10 feet close to the columns, where we did a look at it and it would have cost us another $50,000 to $100,000 to do that piece, and would have had much more risk. So we're leaving that end of the building alone. So the dugout portion will be 10 feet smaller than it might have been. Other than that, I think the only new information from a year ago is that we're going to be getting into all the mechanicals in the basement, and we're going to keep most of them, but we're going to have to reduce some of them. And if you get into the detailed cost estimate, which I haven't provided to you, but I can, there's about $100,000 in that item of redoing HVAC. I think, as I remember, and I'm not the best on these details, but I think HVAC and electric are both over $25,000, so there has to be a separate sub-bid. And plumbing and whatever else I missed is under 25, so the general contractor picks that up as part of their part of it. So there's a little more work in the mechanicals than we expected. We also took advantage of having the sub-designer be a mechanical engineer, so we got a lot more information on the building and the rest of the stuff in there that we're going to be able to use when we come back here again for our next project. So in any case, I've highlighted that we've done a cost estimate. It is coming in a little over budget. Bids these days, we're starting 2 months later than we had hoped in terms of going out to bid. We didn't have anything that we could tell the architect, even though we said we wanted to go out to bid in January, we didn't have a way to make that happen. So when they explained that their consultants, first the structural engineer and then the mechanical engineer, were taking a while, we just said, well, gee, you promised us. But in any case, we're 2 months behind, and in a bad bidding climate, it's not the best time of year going out. Regardless, we have had interest from contractors, including the company that worked on the library, including the company that is currently doing the old barn, which I think is a lot smaller, at Taylor Bray Farm, which I know the main similarity is that it's an old historic structure with an old foundation. So we've got some contractors who know what they're doing, and we hope they give us bids that we can live with. If not, we will look to see if there's anything we can cut out of the project and go forward this year. We'll see if we're gonna rebid, and if we rebid, my structural engineer tells me the best time to do it is in the fall. We're hoping, this part of the contingency plan is, if we have to rebid, we do it in late August or early September, so that we can get bids in time to see if we have to come back to you for more money or not. Right now, I'm saying we're $75,000 to $100,000 short. Joe Powers didn't stick around, so I didn't ask what the likelihood of getting that money from him is. But I will say, he has been very helpful in putting together an ambitious capital plan for the rest of the building after this project, which includes a lot of town money, and which includes a lot of CPC money, and which would require an application to you folks in the fall for the main exterior items, which include dealing with all the siding, which anybody who drives by is looking worse and worse, and dealing with the windows. Keeping those windows as is, but doing a lot of pointing, whatever the right historic words are, to make those continue and look good in that building. So Kathy, that's my main report, and I'm glad to answer any questions.
I have a quick question. The 10 feet or 10 square feet or whatever that you're
10
not
feet.
going to excavate.
Yeah.
Is that gonna affect sort of the climate control aspect of what's gonna be in the basement?
No, it just means it's just a little bit less area to put stuff in.
Okay,
So in other words, you start whatever climate control you do 10 feet back. Your basement is 10 feet times the length of the building smaller.
but is it dirt?
It'll remain dirt, yes, and it'll have a foundation. It'll have a wall on this side of it.
Okay,
So beyond that, I'd have to get information from others to describe better.
okay. And what's the plan for the Harwich Historical Society in terms of, are they gonna be relocated someplace? And how long do you expect that dislocation to be?
The decision was made several months ago not to open, even though they could have been in the building, it was decided it wasn't a real safe situation, so they're not gonna be open in the main museum this summer. Any activities will be outside or will be in the Kroll Barn. Kroll Barn's looking pretty good right now. There's a lot going on in there. They've got a very active decoy carving space, and that's gonna be active this summer.
And how long do you think that that's
This is
dislocation's
supposed to
gonna
be a
last?
6-month construction project.
Okay, and where
So
are they, where are they going to be in the meantime? Like, just between the Kroll Barn and,
They'll be running activities, but you won't be able to get into the museum.
Oh, that's too bad. They just had that,
Elizabeth?
thank you, I just like to chat. They had a fabulous exhibit just recently. They have all these paintings by some artist whose name escapes me.
Cahoon, yeah.
And it's a shame that we can't show those to people this summer.
Mhm. Well, and it's also, they're wasting the talents of a very energetic young director who is doing a lot of stuff on the website and so forth, and could be doing a lot more in the building. But that's gonna wait, hopefully just for this 1 year. We've got 2 shots at it to get them open again next year. One this spring and one this fall. This fall will be a better time of year, but it's not necessarily gonna be a better year to bid in.
Right. Carol?
David, I just want to understand this bit about the OPM, which isn't included in your budget, but you want it to be, or
No,
what?
no.
You don't?
Early on, the building's facilities manager, Sean Libby, said, he doesn't have time to do this job. We don't have the luxury of a fire chief who is willing to spend a lot of his time doing it. So somebody has to be hired. And we talked that very early with the town administrator. As he was putting together his capital plan, he's got $150,000, which I think is more than is needed, but that's what's going to town meeting for this. So the money's covered.
Or the cost of the OPM
Mhm.
for a 6-month
Mhm.
stint?
Yeah.
And would that money be potentially fungible to meet any if your bids go over, is that OPM money a source of meeting the gap?
The capital plan includes 150,000 for the OPM, and it includes 100,000 for, I didn't bring it with me tonight. I believe that's for the roof and the gutters. I suspect that if the OPM came in at 50,000, some of that money could be used. But it's sort of hard to know that at this time of year, so that would be a tough conversation. I'm not the person who knows the answer to that.
Thank you.
Bob?
Yeah, regarding the closing down the museum and stuff, is the Museum Commission helping them? Because I understand they have to move a lot of their stuff out, particularly over the area that's going to be dug out. Is there any assistance the commission can do as far as finding space for them? Or have they already found space to move things to?
They've been moving stuff out, but I don't think they've got all those answers yet.
Yeah, okay. The other thing is, if you come up short, I suppose one of the fallback options would be to go back to one of the plans where it was the 3/4 plan or something, and reduce a basement size. If you were to do that, though, do you have to re-engineer everything, or how, is that not an economical way to, if it comes in over?
The architects asked us a couple of months ago, do we want to look at options such as that?
Right.
We decided at the time we want to stick with the full, it doesn't look like digging, once we get everybody on site, it doesn't look like the cost of excavation adds that much to the project.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so.
No. So right now, it doesn't look like that's going to be the thing that helps us.
Okay.
So if we come in $100,000, if we come in $300,000 over, we bid again. If we come in $100,000 over, we ask a lot of questions that we haven't figured out all the answers to yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hey, just a
Yeah.
quick question, on, you spoke about mechanicals and HVAC and electric, and, that it was around 100,000. Could you just clarify that a little bit? Is that like an upgrade or a total replacement of, or?
It's mostly taking the stuff out and putting it back in again. It's not an upgrade. The upgrade,
Taking it out? Oh,
disconnecting the ducts and so forth, maybe redoing some of the
when
ducts.
all the other work's being done? Okay, thanks.
And one of the things we have to do is we have to take the ramp off the building. And we were talking about in the future plan to make the new entrance be under the columns at the front. So now that the architect drew up in the plans, you come in off the parking lot and instead of turning right, you turn left and you get into it that way. I just asked the architect, this ramp has had to be sort of fixed up a few times. Maybe we want to take the whole thing down and redo it. So that's another thing that we're still, maybe move it over to where the brick sidewalk is now. I keep looking at you, Bob,
Yeah,
because I know you're
that's
very
that's-
familiar with the site.
Anyone else? No? All right, David, thank you for the update.
Good luck. We need it.
Robin, last but not least tonight, thank you for your patience.
Robin Kelly, Cemetery Administrator. Jan was pointed out to me that we still might want to look at the article from the 2018, the gravestone. We actually had a remaining balance, so I went and checked with Carol Coppola, and we still have a remaining balance. That project has been completed of $760 that we're returning to you guys. So at the end of the meeting, you guys could
Yep.
vote to take that back. That would be great.
Thank you.
Close that one out.
Yep.
Article number 32 of 2020, the Pine Grove Cemetery Gravestone Conservation Project. It was awarded for $75,000. We went out to bid, and the guy that won the bid was extremely less, 42, but apparently he went out to bid at 5 different projects, and he got them all. Needless to say, he's finishing all the rest of his projects, and he will begin in April. So I'm excited that he'll be coming. And I did talk to a couple of the places that he's currently doing projects on, just to check his work, because his price was so low, and I was a little leery about that. And they think he does a great job, so.
Great.
The recreation article that I had was for the Phase 1, which was from 2021 for the Veterans Memorial Circle. I have recently went back out to bid for the flagpoles and all of the, so now we have to have 6 flagpoles instead of the 5 because we have to do Space Force. So we just went out, we just went back out to bid for that.
We have to do what? Excuse me.
We had to add Space Force to the, if you do a Veterans Memorial Circle now,
You have to.
the government makes you do all 6 now,
Okay.
so you have to add another flagpole. So anyways, the new, it's $15,304 for that, so, and now we're putting out, I just had to, the electrical bid, I had to bring to Sean Libby to look it over, because I don't know anything about electricity. And then he wrote up the specs, I sent it over to Megan, so we're putting that out to bid next week, so we're moving forward on that as well. It'll look nice when you see it, so. But eventually, we'll be adding the commission, we're gonna add benches for each one of the branches, so that'll be the first bench with that I know, I'm aware of. Does anybody have any
Any
questions?
questions? Joe?
No.
No. Elizabeth? Questions?
Excited about- I'm
I
excited about the
best
extra
not
flagpole.
speak.
Mary?
I'm looking forward to see the next cemetery done. I'll leave
Yeah.
My comments at the cemetery.
Yeah, so, recently Caleb has been adding more of the photographs from the, Mount Pleasant, the digitized ones. So I had given him the flash drive before, so if you go to the cemetery page on the town website, you can click on it and it shows you the before, during, and after photos of the restoration that they did on there. So I wanted him to make sure they were all up so that I can show Village Green. This is the documentation that they did in the last project, and this is what we're expecting you to do before you start. So make sure you take all these photographs, because we're gonna wanna see the work as it's completed.
Great.
Okay?
All right, thank you, Robin.
Thanks.
See you guys at town meeting.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and recreation, we have the report, but recreation is not gonna be presenting this evening.
Actually, I think my hard copies might be in the basement right now. I don't know.
What?
Eric's reports, the hard copies, he may have put in
Oh.
our mailbox.
Oh, okay, all right.
And so,
Did
after
anyone-
the meeting,
okay. Did
I'll
anyone
go
look
grab
at the recreation report online, aside from Bob and I, who have printed ours out? No? Okay, well, let me just update you. 2018 Article 54, which was the Brooks Park Expansion Phase 5, is completed. That was $333,500. 2019 Article 43, which was the Sand Pond restroom replacement, completed the septic system design, and they've received 2 quotes so far. They expect to put this project out to bid towards the end of the summer, with installation in the fall. 2019 Article 40, the lifeguard stand project for $37,950 has been completed and ready for use for this 2022 summer season. 2020 Article number 36, Brooksfield fencing for $72,657. Specification materials and a draft RFP have been delivered to the Administration Department and being reviewed. They anticipate the bid to go out late summer. 2021 Article number 35, Brooks Park Lighting Phase 5, Part 2, $125,000 is completed. And 2021 Article number 29, Senior Memorial Field Fencing for $40,181. Again, specifications, materials, and draft RFP have been delivered to administration. department for review, and they expect it to go out in late summer with installation in the fall. So it looks like things are moving along. Yes, Mary?
So we have, it looks like 1, 2, 3 completed articles. Were there any balances left over in any of those in the report?
Not that we know of
Okay.
this time. Okay. At this point in time, we would like to entertain a motion to restore any leftover funding from open balances back to the community preservation.
So I would move that we return $270 to the CPA, the appropriate CPA bucket, which I believe at the time was probably historic, but I would rely on the original article.
Right.
For Article 31 of 2015, which is the balance of the Rogers Group statue restoration.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then I would move.
Passed. Mary?
I would move that we return $760 from, again, I believe from historic funds, but I would rely on the original article from town meeting 2018, Article 50, to the appropriate CPC bucket, which is the outstanding balance from Mount Pleasant Cemetery Gravestone Conservation Project.
Is there a second?
Second.
How much money was that?
$760 even.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Are there any other?
Those are
motions?
the only, I think those are the only two, because we had,
I thought there were a couple more from recreation.
Jan informed
We
me
don't
that
know
that,
the amount from recreation.
I thought on that sheet that you,
Jan told me that that was not a current, those numbers were not current, so
No,
that's
Okay.
why I relied on,
these,
okay,
on the applicants, so.
okay.
these aren't on this. These are old.
Okay. Okay,
Wait.
So based on the, so
Qua.
Kathy, if
yes.
you'll indulge me, based on the information we received tonight, it appears that there were only two that we had confirmation of that were complete, and that there was a definitive balance that I think we're comfortable returning.
Okay. Yes, Carol?
What is the process with the 50,000 for the housing coordinator position?
So I think it's on the warrant, so I would suggest that we wouldn't do anything with that until we see what happens at town meeting.
Well, I mean, the one that they didn't use, that they're going to not use, that was voted.
Once it's been definitively decided that they're not gonna be hiring anybody in this fiscal
Right.
year, then they will come to us and they'll say, we're gonna, turn back the money,
there's
and then
another
we'll
step
take a
they have
vote.
to
Right.
take.
Yeah.
Okay.
And based on what the town administrator told us, we've never given them the money anyway. It's sitting in the account and encumbered and not being
It would
used, so.
just free it up to.
So it'll just be a
But
matter
it'll
for
go
us
back
to.
into the Affordable Housing Trust account.
Right.
Elizabeth?
Wait, sorry. So the money, the $50,000 for the 2021 Article 32 that they don't use, we don't get back?
Yeah, we do.
No, we
will,
do.
if they,
Because you just
if-
said it goes back to the Affordable Housing Trust.
oh, I meant the affordable, I meant the community housing bucket
Okay.
within the
Affordable
thing, I'm
trust.
sorry, I
Okay,
misspoke.
but we don't have to vote on it
We
because
will,
we
but
never
we
actually
need
gave
to
it
wait
to
for
them.
them to come to us and say, we're releasing the funds.
But
Probably you can't release it until the end of the fiscal year, which we're not there yet, right?
Well, it's technically not complete yet, I would say.
Right,
and I just-
exactly.
We approved the money at town meeting. We wait until we know that those funds aren't gonna be used, then we take them back. I mean, I think it's a matter that they're just trying to figure out what's going on with it.
But what they're trying to figure out is the 50,000 we approved for this year. They don't know if they're gonna need that article, because if the position
Right, but that's different
goes
from,
on.
that's different.
But-
One is a matter of the money's been encumbered, so we want the money, the funds released back to the community housing, fund.
Oh, I see, but they can't release it back to us because it was for fiscal year 22, so we have to wait for fiscal. Thank you.
It's 21,
It was
21.
fiscal 21.
What?
It was fiscal 21.
waiting for,
Go ahead, Carol.
no, I think that, what I'm understanding is, we need to hear officially
Yeah.
from the recipient at the end of fiscal year 21 that they didn't use the money.
Right.
And therefore, it's available again
Correct.
in that,
Okay.
in whatever category it belongs.
Right, correct.
All right.
Thank you.
And then sounds like they are going to potentially indefinitely postpone the 50 that we did approve, and then it would never get issued to them in the first place.
Hopefully.
So, right,
Right,
exactly.
all right. Is there anything under old business that anyone wants to bring up tonight? Carol?
Well, at the last meeting, we talked about some policy changes to the application, which are in process. I need to connect with some people on the committee, and, but we should have that to discuss next meeting?
Yeah, right. Okay. Is there anything that anybody wants on the next agenda? Don't all speak at once. Carol,
Well, that item,
That
yes,
item.
please.
the application.
Nothing
Mary?
for the agenda, but did we finalize our date for our public hearing, and is there anything we need to do for that going forward? I thought we had.
I believe we finalized it for June, correct?
Right, we said June 9th,
Yeah,
depending if somebody didn't have a graduation.
okay,
That was the caveat.
okay,
I booked June 9th.
okay.
So,
I think there'll be
She
one
takes
issue.
care of advertising
the
at least,
advertisement, and
yes.
that was
and
just
the
my
public.
question. I want to make sure we're
Yeah,
in April already, May
No,
will
she'll
come
take
up
care of
quick,
that.
so.
And we'll discuss at the May meeting, we should have it as an agenda item, the public meeting, and any additional advertising that we want to do.
Well, could you ask the question, does anyone have a conflict with June 9th?
Okay, does anyone have a conflict with June 9th for the public
Because y'all
meeting?
are supposed to check your calendars.
It's a
Not that I
regularly
know of.
scheduled meeting, correct? It's it's our regularly scheduled meeting, correct? It's the
Yes.
second Thursday in June?
Yes, it is.
Well then,
At 6, I think we said 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Should be fine.
Yeah. I
Okay.
can move my
all right.
All right, anything unforeseen?
Our next meeting is May 12th, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion for adjournment at 7:12.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A record, I say.
Good job, Kathy.
I was expecting, you guys were talking about this being a
It-
really long meeting. and I was
Previously,
thinking-
it has.
Sometimes.
Previously, last year, the year before,
Last year it was.